Hey y'all, it's Crystal. So I'm out here taking a break from tilling up our phase 1 garden and getting ready to put in our fall winter garden. And I just wanted to talk to you guys about things that I have learned this year from gardening. Now, since we moved out here to the country about 7 years ago, I have put in a garden. Actually, we moved here about 8 years ago, and then I put in a garden the next year. Now, I had never really gardened before that. I've had, when we lived in the suburbs, we had flower beds up front, and I had, plants that you bought at Home Depot or Lowe's and stuck in the ground, a few herbs, really no big deal. Never grew anything from seed like I have out here. Just never grew any vegetables to eat. Growing up, my parents did, but I never helped them. I never participated. Kind of wish I did, though. But anyway, the last 3 years have been awful for my garden. I decided to switch to organic gardening methods and learned a lot of lessons there. So the last 3 years, I have been building up my soil. And this year, it seems like is the first year that we've really gotten any sort of crop. And with that, I've had problems arise. So that's what I kind of want to talk about, the things that my garden has taught me this year. Now, number one, the first thing my garden has taught me is garden spacing, plant spacing. Now, I know, if you're like me, you get the seed packet, you read it, and, seed packet gives you X amount of space that the plant needs. For example, 3 foot. It says plant spacing 3 foot. That doesn't count for where you're going to walk. That is a minimal suggestion on what the plant needs to grow in. So if the seed packet says 3 foot, that is minimum for the plant to grow in. I know for a fact that my squash and zucchini plants, they grew to about 4 foot across. One of them almost did 5 foot across. So when you're planting and when you're putting in your plants, you need to take that into consideration. Seed packet says 3 foot, maybe go 4 foot. You give that plant 4 foot of space to grow in, then you give yourself another 3 foot to walk in. That way you've got plenty of room to move around, bring a wheelbarrow in if you need, because otherwise you end up with a mess like this. These were all planted at about 3 foot across, and I can't walk in here. I can't walk in here. My pollinators can't get in. I'm getting hardly any crops out of here. These are 2 rows of lemon squash that didn't do hardly anything. I mean, but I can't walk in here. So plant spacing is number 1. Learn what your plants need to grow in, the minimum width to grow in, and then what you need to walk in and move around and bring a wheelbarrow in. That is lesson 1. Lesson 2, know your area. Know what you can and cannot plant in certain times of years. I have never been able to grow peas here in Southeast Texas. It's because it gets too hot here in Southeast Texas. Peas like cool weather. So I'm going to try peas again this year in my fall garden. Let's walk over here and take a look at this. These are my 800-year-old squash. These came in beautifully. I mean, I had huge, big, they spread out, look. Oh, the seed packet said I needed 4 foot for these. They probably spread out about 8, 9 foot easily. So I put these in, they got huge, and then when the weather turned really super hot, they just kind of died back and really haven't done anything. They just do not like the hot weather. There's plenty of, they've got plenty of room. They just don't like the hot weather. So we'll try it again in early spring and see what kind of crop we get. Here's another squash plant over here. This is another summer squash that as soon as it got really super hot, it just kind of died back. I've maybe gotten, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 squash out of here. But that could be because they're also planted way too close. Back to spacing again. So we'll try that again in early spring, but I really think it just really got too hot. So know your plants. Know what they like. You see the burgundy ochre right there? That's actually pretty enough to go in some front yards. That burgundy okra, doing great. Loves the heat, has no problems. That cucumber back behind it, it doesn't like the heat as much. So that'll be in early spring. This cucumber plant over here, even though I'm getting ready to pull it out because we need to allow spacing for the other stuff, not a problem with the heat. Loves the heat. Burmese okra. Burmese okra loves the heat, doesn't mind it. But next year I'm going to plant it earlier because I read that these guys will get 10 foot tall if you let them. I think that's kind of cool. So know your plants. Know what they're going to grow in, because otherwise you're not going to end up with any crop and a lot of real estate gone that you could have used for something else. Okay, so kind of the third and final most important things that I've learned. Keep your soil covered. I am a firm believer in the Back to Eden method and the Ruth Stout method. Both of those are almost the same, except for Back to Eden is all about the wood chips and Ruth Stout is all about the hay and leaves and stuff like that. Keeping the soil covered. It keeps, number one, it keeps everything cool. It keeps the ground cool. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to pause this right here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go get a thermometer. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back, and I got my handy-dandy meter here, or thermometer. And so, let's take a reading. Let's get down where we can see this. Let me back up. Okay, so we're full sun. On top of the ground here, on top of the hay, we're looking at about, that's hot, 132 Fahrenheit. That can't be right, right? I've been walking on it. Anyway, so let's uncover the ground and see what it is underneath it. Now, about 6 inches of hay. All right, so the first thing you do see seeds from the hay. But as long as you keep this ground covered, you don't have to worry about the seeds sprouting. The other thing that you notice is that the ground, even though it has not been watered in over a month, we have had a little bit of rain, it's still damp. So before it gets too heated up, let's take a reading. That's a huge difference, don't you think? Huge difference. Back up. Huge difference. So 95 degrees on top of the ground, 140 degrees. That's hot. It is too hot to be out here right now. So anyway, keep your ground covered. Whether you're using hay or whether you're using wood chips or leaves, whatever it is, just keep the ground covered. Because otherwise, you have to deal with weeds. And I don't know about you, I don't like weeds. Main reason, I don't like snakes. Snakes like to hide in the weeds and I can't see where I'm walking. When you keep your ground covered, see, covered. Look, my ground is covered right here, not covered right there. Look at that, look at the difference. You've got hardly any weeds. I've got one there and that's it, one there. Where the ground is not covered, it's covered in weeds. And that's what I'm having to till up to get the weeds out of there so that I can recover with the hay. Now, a lot of traditional Ruth Stout people will argue and say, no, just put your hay right on top. The problem with that is that some of this is nut grass and it pokes right through the hay. Ask me how I know. I've already had to do it. So, keeping our ground covered is another major thing. Keeping the ground covered will keep everything moist inside. It'll keep the ground cool. Ground cool, moist, your plants thrive. Thrive. Plants that already don't have a problem with the heat will thrive. This is a lemongrass plant right here. This lemongrass plant is almost as tall as me. It is almost 5 foot tall. I'm 5'4", so it's almost as tall as me. This squash right here obviously doesn't have a problem with the heat, and it's making fruit. So, but with the ground covered and the weeds out of there, they're not competing for nutrients. They're not competing for anything. So that's where we're at. That is the video I wanted to make today, just the things that I've learned. And I'm sure next year I'll learn even more. I'm sure that I'll learn even more with my fall garden. So I will just continue to work. Actually, I think I'm gonna take the afternoon off because just making this video, I'm sweating. It is hot out here. I think the heat index right now is like 102. But anyway, that's that. I am gonna go in and get a glass of iced tea and talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Stay cool.